Welcome to When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique.
I'm Dexter, Peggins.
And we are on our 5th episode of I'm a Man and I Was Molested. We're about to bring on our guest in just a quick minute. But while we are waiting for him to go ahead and get on, it's good to see everybody, even though we can't really see everybody. It's good to be with everybody again. And to continue on this series. This series has been very impactful, very, very heavy. Last week, if you joined us, we talked about our thoughts and our reactions to everyone that we have interviewed over the past few weeks now. And, there's been a lot of different things that have sparked our attention. There's been a lot of things that's made us say, and open our eyes to a lot of things, and some conversations that we gotta have, and even some things that even our listeners and viewers have thought about as well. And it's been a whole lot that we just had to make mental notes about, of things that we had to go back and look on, and even just reconsider with just kids in general, what I'm saying? So that was a powerful episode. So you missed that episode, make sure you go back. You can easily, those you just listen to our live, you can easily listen to our podcast on just about any platform and just search for that.
Yeah, so listen, this has been a tremendously impactful series that we've been doing, and the response, I'll say it 1,000 times, has been really overwhelming. I think with people who can resonate with this particular series. The number of men who say, "Hey, that was my story," it just kind of blows your mind. And so, once again, we're going to dive into that tonight. The brother that we're going to bring on, I know he has an amazing story. And I believe that his story will be very helpful to those who listen. Before we dive into that, we're getting ready to bring him on right now. I know that he's ready to come on, and we're ready to have him. Just want to quickly let you all know that we do have an online course called Stressed and Burned Out. Now, we've been talking about this for the longest. There's actually a digital product, a digital ebook that's available if you go into our online store. But we also have a physical book. So this is a companion to Stressed and Burned Out. We'll let you know how to get that. We'll plug it in the comment section, how you can get access to the physical book. But without further ado, let us get ready to bring on our guest for today. Powerful conversation, and even in our screening, there were just some things that he shared with us that I said, he's going to bring real value to the listeners, and we trust that his story, will be helpful. All of the gentlemen who have come on here, we commend their courage. It's not an easy. This is not an easy topic by no stretch of the imagination. Nor is it, and we're the ones doing the interview. But these men are sharing their life stories. So we really just appreciate the fact that they are courageous enough to do just that to a public that doesn't know them, but they're willing, from their experience, to offer their story as a means of providing hope and to keep people from experiencing this as well. So without further ado, we are honored to have Mr. Leon Walker with us today. Leon,
thanks for having me, brothers. I appreciate it. Can y'all see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Hey Leon, just real quick, we're hearing a little feedback.
Okay, let me
so if you can,
let me try to turn this down. How's that?
Oh, I think that's much better.
That's good right there. Okay.
Yes, sir. All right. Hey, so Leon, before we get started with the questions on today, do us a favor. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the
All right,
viewing public?
Leon Walker from Cleveland, Ohio. I have 3 children. I have 3 god kids. I'm retired from the Navy. I retired in 2015, 32 years. Went to Shaw High School for the people from my hometown that are listening. You know, I had a great time in the military. I love people. I'm an author and I don't consider myself a motivational speaker. I consider myself a messenger, you know, something different. But that's me in a nutshell. I'm continuing to write my books, continue to help people out with my story, men and women, kids, young men, you know, adults as well. So that's me in a nutshell. Retired 32 years from the Navy, living in Chicago currently, and I love travel. I love to work out. I love to eat some great food.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, I want to say thank you for your service. You know, as we talked before, you know, we're all veterans on this particular platform. So, man, just want to say thank you for your
And thank
service
you
to
all
the
for
country.
serving too.
Yeah,
So
too
definitely. Hey, Leon, once again, man, you know, I really appreciate you stepping up to the plate and you're saying, you know, it's my time to really share my story with everyone. You just don't have a clue how this is going to impact a lot of people, a lot of parents, a lot of brothers, a lot of just everybody in general is going to be impacted in some form or fashion. But we really want you to just try your best to be
Yeah.
comfortable here. And anything that you feel uncomfortable sharing, you think a question that we may ask is too much, just let us know. And for the viewers and listeners and everyone else who is probably new, we are going to be talking about molestation and possible rape and whatever the case may be. So that is the trigger warning for today for this video. So Leon, you know, I just want you just to begin, you know, about your first interaction, your first experience with molestation, how it happened, what age it happened,
So the
and so
first
forth.
one, and this was a problem that I had my entire life. I never dealt with it. I never told anybody, and I'll talk to you about that as well. So I was in the first grade, getting ready for school, and back then, you know, you lose a tooth, you put it on the pillow at nighttime. In the morning time, you wake up for some money or whatever, quarters, dimes, nickels, whatever the case may be. I woke up that morning, and my 2 cousins had spent the night. They were much older than me, maybe 6, 7 years older than I was. And so I got my money from under the pillow and went in my sister's bedroom, and that's where they were sleeping. And I said, hey, you know, I lost a tooth. You know, I got some money. I want to go to the Gus candy store after I get out of school. Gus's was one of our favorite candy stores. And so they just looked at me for a hot minute and didn't say anything. And then they snatched me and threw me on the bed. And that's when my cousins, 2 female cousins, laid on top of me, started kissing me. And sadly, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to say this, but that's when I learned how to kiss a girl from my cousins. And yes, that is incest, but I learned that from my cousins, my female cousins. So they kissed me, they sucked on my face, my jaws, my neck, my chest. And I found a way to get out of it. It was a struggle. I found a way to get out of there. You know, I was crying. I didn't get too in detail in depth with it in my book, but I did talk about it briefly. But I found a way to get out of there. Made it out. I went to school and I walked. My school was about maybe 3/4 of a mile from our home. I was in the first grade. And so I get to my school and I was late, of course. And my teacher said, Leon, what's going on with you? What happened? I told her I got into a fight because
Hey, Leon, I think we lost you real quick. If you don't mind, could you come back into the video whenever you get that your communication situated?
And just bear with us for one.
Okay. So yeah, that is Mr. Leon Walker. We're gonna bring him back in. I don't know what happened, but thank you all for your patience.
can you hear me? Somebody called in. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Okay.
I didn't know what was on my face. I just felt the pressure on my jaws, my neck. I was still throbbing when I left my home. So she asked me what happened. I told her, you know, I got jumped, and she knew better. But she saw me, you know, and I was there with her, but she could see me. And so she could see the marks all over me. And so I told her I got into a fight, and she said, come here, baby. And she hugged me. And I remember my mouth being on her skirt. I was still bleeding because remember I had just lost a tooth that night and it was still sore and sensitive. So my cousins, from them kissing on me and sucking on my mouth, it caused my mouth to bleed again. Well, I was spitting blood out on my way to school, but I didn't even realize that it was still, on my mouth. And so I was trying to hide it as best I could because I didn't want to tell on them. I didn't want them to get in trouble. And that's one of the reasons why we continue to be molested and not raped, but molested, because there's a couple of reasons. We'll talk about that. But my blood was on her skirt and she hugged me and told my mother, but there was everything done. There was never anything done about it. And so I held that in. And it happened a couple more times, which I didn't talk about, because when I did start talking about this at like 50 years old, I still wasn't ready for it, And so that was the first incident. The second incident was my babysitter. And so I had 33 interviews or so between April and June. And during those interviews, they would always give me these stats. Like 90% of the people that are molested or raped the perpetrators are somebody that you know or respect. In my case, it was my babysitter. This is the second case, my babysitter. And so the reason why I didn't tell on her is because now they say 80% of the cases go unreported. And out of those 33 interviews, I talked to 3 doctors, a psychotherapist, a social worker, and a psychiatrist. This is the last few months. Not one time did they ask me, Leon, why are these cases so high that's not being reported? But I knew why they weren't being reported. It's because when you are, in my case, I'm talking about me, not anybody else, but in my case, when I was molested by my babysitter at 7 or 8 years old, that's when I lost my virginity. It was on the cusp of my parents arguing and fighting all the time. It was a cusp on them going into this divorce, this nasty divorce they had. And so I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of unhappiness. I had a lot of sorrow. I was lost. I was a lost kid. I was searching for somebody to help me, somebody to get me through this, but there was no one there but my babysitter. My parents were great parents. Don't get me wrong. They were great parents, but my mother was working at a bar. My father was working at Ford. So they were gone a lot. All right. My father worked the late shift. And of course, working at a bar, my mother working at a bar, she's gone probably 7 in the evening until probably 3 in the morning. So my siblings were always asleep or either in the basement somewhere. But it felt for her to take my virginity like she did, for her to molest me like she did, for her to rape me like she did, I processed that as love and affection and caring. Now, the 80% of the cases that are not reported, these doctors that have gone to school for 20, 25 years, have been in practice for 30, 40 years, they didn't know, but the 80% of the cases not reported is because the child, in my case, the child starts to like the perpetrator. I started liking my girl, my babysitter. She became, in my mind, at 7 years old, she became my girlfriend. She brought me quarters over. She brought me candy. She brought me food. She held my hand. She hugged me. So 80% of the cases that go unreported is because the kid, the young man, the young woman starts to like the perpetrator, and the perpetrator is just as damaged as the child. So I don't know what was going on in her household, but I do realize that her brother had some issues and her parents were always fighting and arguing. So she found comfort in me and I found comfort in her. And so that was the second incident, and it just kept going on and on. Then it went from us having sex to playing house. So she tells me I'm dad, right? And she's mom, and we're gonna have kids. And I'm like, well, how do we do that? Well, she showed me. And so that's what I was practicing. That's what I like. That's what I love. And that's what I wanted in my life. That was the easiest way for me to get over my parents fighting. The easiest way for my mother trying to kill my father. The easiest way from understand or not think about my father beating my mother. The easiest way for me not to visit my uncle knocking my mother's teeth out, and me as a little boy picking her teeth up off the floor, literally. So that was the second incident. And me and my babysitter, we had sex often. And I tell anybody that's listening, if you got a little boy or son, and there are signs that you can look for when they're having sex at a young age, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they are, and they will. Just think, this happened to me back in 1970, and it's still relevant today. So my third incident was, and I described this in my book, but it was too graphic, so I had to switch publishers. But anyway, it was a male member that in my family that used to always put his hands in my pants. But before he did that, he would put Vaseline on his hands. And here I am. Now, remember, I was having sex with my babysitter. So in my mind, I'm good with that part. You know, I'm strictly with my love my babysitter. I even started liking my cousins. As sick as that sounds, I started liking my cousins. And so they're the ones that taught me, and then the babysitter. And so here, now we got a male in the picture, and I didn't know why he was touching me. I didn't know why he would put Vaseline on his hands and put his hands in my pants. And even today, at 54 years old, I still have a certain amount of pain in my private area, okay? So I didn't know why he was doing this, and then he would force me to lay on top of him, and I'm fighting, and because I didn't want to do that. There was never any time of penetration. The only time that it was skin touching skin was when his hands touched my private area. And so I couldn't do much but like hit him, push him, bite him, you know, and then he began to bully me. And so I had all these anger issues in me for a very, very long time. And then going from my cousins to my babysitter to him, I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know who to like, you know. So 90% of the cases that are sexual abuse cases that are reported are by somebody that you know or respect. 80% of the cases go unreported. 1 out of 3 little girls will be molested by the age of 18, and 1 out of 6 little boys will be molested by the age of 18. I fit in all those categories. I was in all those categories at 6, 7 years old. And so I couldn't process anything but hurt, anger. I wanted to kill. Literally as a 8, 9-year-old kid, I wanted to kill the male member of my family that did that. And I knew how to kill him, because when somebody does something like that to you, it's so devastating that you try to think of other ways to get back at him. So I couldn't punch him. I could have, but it wouldn't hurt. I could bite him. I could kick him. But the thing is, like I said, when my mother tried to kill my father, she had a gun. And the gun was always like hidden, but I found a gun. And so I had a plan to kill the male member of my family because what he did to me. Now, the women, I didn't want to kill them. Later on in life, I wanted to hurt women. I wanted to break their hearts. And I did that often, probably 25, 30 years, because of me not fixing what happened to me as a little boy. So now I see my mother's gun in her bedroom, and there was times where I went to get that gun because I knew he was coming over every weekend. And I really had a plan, a well thought out plan to murder him at 8, 9 years old. So that was the third incident.
Wow, Leon, man, that's man, a lot of trauma, my brother. Let me ask you this, because there's a few things I want to get some clarity on. Concerning the age of your babysitter, how old was she?
She was probably, I would think, between 13 and maybe somewhere in the 13, 14, somewhere in there. Because she was the same age as my brother, and he was probably 6, 7 years older than I was. So yeah, around that age.
I got you. Now, I guess the first question that really stands out for me, at any point in time, whether it be with the cousins, whether it be with the babysitter, or even with the male family member, did you tell your parents or anybody?
No. So a couple of reasons. Again, like they say, the 80% cases go unreported. I never told them. And here's why. Another reason why. Fear of retaliation, right? Fear that nobody will believe you, right? And the biggest thing, that the reason why I think the case is not reported is so high, is because the fear of losing my girlfriend, which is my babysitter, the fear of not getting any more candy or money or love or hugs or even sex. So fear of retaliation, fear of people not believing you. And I know of cases of, being a senior leader in the Navy, talk to young women that were molested or raped. Their mother or father knew, family members know. They know when the person is doing what they're doing, because that person is considered a child molester. Like in jail, they call them a chomo. That person is considered that at a young age. And in the family knows. A lot of times the family knows. And so the reason why I didn't tell is because I didn't want her to stop loving me. I didn't want her to stop kissing me, I didn't want her to stop bringing me candy and food and stuff. It was sad, but that was a way for me to feel good about myself, because my parents were fighting. When my father came home from work drunk, I love him to death. Still love my father right now, even though he died in 99. When he came home from Ford Motor Company in those blue coveralls, I knew it was going to be an argument. I knew it was going to be a fight, because either he was drunk, or my mother was pissed off from working all night, or he was pissed off from somebody flirting with my mother at the bar, because the bar was down the street from us, about a half a mile from where we lived. So it was always some anger, and it was always tension in my household. And man, I got tired of I got sick and tired of that tension. I just didn't know where to go and what to do. So why would I tell on my babysitter? Because no, if I tell on her, she's gonna get in trouble. If I tell on her, she's not gonna give me the food anymore, the candy, the cookies, and the money. She's not gonna show me the cartoons when I want to see the cartoons. She is my babysitter, but she went from my babysitter to my girlfriend, and I was just fine with that. You know, so it allowed me to not think about, oh no, my father comes home, you know, he's gonna punch my mother, or when my father comes home, my mother's gonna shoot at my father. All I thought about is, you know, my babysitter on her way over here, good, I'm good to go. I didn't care about anything after that. I didn't care about school. You know, I could barely concentrate in school. You're talking the first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way up to the sixth grade. I could barely concentrate because all I wanted to do was be with my little girlfriend. And all I could think about was what my cousins done to me, how they taught me how to kiss. And I started processing it more and more. It went from, you know, being a bad thing to like, darn, that felt good. You know, I like that. And then that's when the porn came in. So I put it all together as a coping mechanism just for me, just for little old Leon. I had a coping mechanism to get me through the horrors of my household that we had at that time.
Now you did mention as far as the fear of retaliation, you recognize that by way of the babysitter that, you know, that meant, you know, no more candy, no more food,
Right.
no more sex. With respect to the male family member, did he ever say that, hey, if you say something, I'm going to hurt you? Or was it just, did you just assume that, you know, injury or harm would come?
Okay,
if you
so
were
there
to
was
say
two things to
something?
that. He bullied me, and when we would go to my grandmother's house, she lived on the west side of Cleveland. There was this specific tree, like a bush in the backyard, and they had these things on them called cuckabugs. They were round, about that big, and they had spikes on them, right, all over them. So he would make me lean up against a tree, and he would toss them into my face. One landed on my cheek, another one landed on my cheek, another one landed up here, and my face was full of them, and I couldn't do anything but cry. And he said, you know what, this is, if you tell on me touching you, I'm gonna do this to you every day. And so he had a way to get to me because it was like I was a little kid and he was older. So what can I do, you know? But the more he threw those things in my face, the more pain I felt, the more blood came out of my face, the more I thought about shooting him. The closer I got to getting that gun, every single time he would throw those things in my face. And what's crazy to me is that I went in the house and told my mother, my father wasn't there, and she pulled them out of my face one after another. And I remember her slightly wiping my face down and putting Vaseline on it. But it was a time where at that time, that's when I became a real evil little boy, because I had harbored that anger. I couldn't cry. I couldn't let it out, because he would tell me, you better not cry. You better not say anything. So he taught me how to control my anger in a way that whereas when it finally did build up, I would blow up. And that came out in my adult life. But he taught me how not to cry. And I have forgotten for about 25 years how to cry because of that man. And so the more he did that, the more he made me think about evil things to do to get back at him. And the only thing I thought about was that gun. That was the only thing I thought about. And trust me, I had plans to shoot him. I had plans to actually murder him. I had already processed it. I had thought it all the way out. I knew what a gun was. I knew how to get it. I knew what the bullets were, right? And so I knew also at 8, 9, 10 years old, if I kill him, I'm not going to jail. What are they going to do with me? Call me crazy, call me stupid, call me slow. I already felt that way anyway. Because of the sex with my babysitter and because what my female cousin did to me, I wasn't concentrating in school. I go to school just to look for the girls. In fact, in the kindergarten, before all of this happened, I was caught looking up under the girl's skirt. And I got spanked for that. But that was just like maybe something I was, you know, seeing in the porn movies or whatever. But when I got in the first grade, it took off. You know, all of that, those egregious ways and all that negativity just took off. And then my cousins just magnified it. My babysitter magnified it. And then the male member magnified it. But that took my anger to a whole different level, bro. Whole different level. So I remember times going to my mother's bedroom, opening up the gun. It was a 38 caliber, midnight blue, steel, spinning the barrel, spinning it, clicking it back in, because I had planned on really like being sophisticated when I shot him. I wasn't gonna just get and go bang, but you know, I wanted to play around with it, and you know, it built my confidence up as far as handling a weapon. You know, so yeah, I really had a plan to murder him, and it was going to go down, and I didn't care because, like I said, I processed, the what would happen to me afterwards. I processed the consequences, and there weren't any. Killing him would have been bringing myself back to life because he killed me, and so my thing was, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. And the older I got, the more confident I became. The older I got, the more plans I had to do, because I used to watch his car come over, and when he pull up, I was sitting in the backyard on the back porch and watch the car pull up. He had not forgotten about it, but he didn't know that I had plans to kill him. He had no idea. He'd always turn his back on me. And it only took me a second to get in my mother's bedroom, to get the gun. My mother had the gun readily available because she did try to kill my father, and she emptied the barrel on him, but it missed him. And so the gun was always loaded, and I knew that. So in my mind, that gun is loaded for me to kill him. So I had a plenty of excuses to take him out. But I say now, unfortunately, back then it was fortunately, he got murdered. He got shot in the mouth with a shotgun. And my mother's like, that was her only brother. And she's like, well, we're not going, you guys don't have to go to the funeral. Y'all stay here. And I was like, saying to myself, you have no idea. I didn't plan on going to the funeral anyway. Myself, I said, if y'all make me go to that funeral, it's gonna be some drama in that funeral. I didn't care, bro. That anger has set so deep into my soul. I didn't care. My thing was to kill. He's dead. I'm gonna kill him again. I don't think like that now. It took me a long time to get over that, but that's how I was thinking. Again, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, as I get through it, remember what he did to me, I had a good excuse to get away from murder, and I could have.
So, tell everyone your initial reaction when you heard about that, and when you first learned about what happened to your family member. Was it a cousin or uncle? That your uncle was murdered. What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was good for him, and I lived that life. I thought that, and you know what, man, I'm gonna tell you, Dex and Dom, that mindset, and me not forgetting how to cry, it hurt my relationships, because when I was with a woman, I would say nasty things to her, make her cry, and it didn't bother me at all. It didn't move me at all. I was so cold, man, as a child. I didn't process it. I never got help for it until I was 50. But when I found out, and it's another thing, we were at my grandmother's house, and they came on the radio, and they announced it that so-and-so was shot in the mouth. There's a shotgun blast on East or West 122nd Street. They gave the name, and my grandmother was like, we was playing. We're in the living room playing, and she was like, shh, be quiet, be quiet. I turned around and started laughing because I already knew. I said, either the guy that's gonna kill him, or I'm gonna kill him. And so that was my initial reaction, like, either somebody else gonna get him or I'm gonna get him. They had no idea I had a plan. I had a plan to kill my grandmother's son. I was quite comfortable with it too. Like I said, I knew I wasn't going to jail. I wasn't get locked. I wasn't going nowhere. So my initial reaction was good for him, which I don't feel like that now. It took me years to forgive him. It took me years to forgive my babysitter. It took me years to forgive my cousins. They wound up being murdered too. Well, one died an alcoholic, and the other one was murdered by her boyfriend. He beat her with a hammer.
Hey, Leon, can you go back for a minute and with your female cousins, your babysitter, and your uncle, what was the time span? How long did the molestation
It started in the first grade, and then it went till about the 5th, 6th grade, because 3rd grade, once my cousins did what they did to me, it put me on a really, really dark path. And since they were older than I was, I started liking older women. Younger girls didn't turn me on at all. Younger girls didn't do anything for me at all because they weren't developed. When my cousins did what they did, they were developed, right? And I fell in love with my 3rd grade teacher. And what I used to do is go to 3rd grade. And when I was in 3rd grade, I would go to school and get in trouble on purpose so that she can, so when back then we got swatted, right? What I would do was do something devilish or devious in classroom on purpose to get her attention, and she would have to swat me. but before they swat you, they grab you and adjust your pants. So I wanted her to touch me in that way. I wanted to smell her perfume. I wanted to hear her breathing next to me, because when she had to swat me, she would have to, get on me. You know how after you have to corral a child to swat him, get him ready. I didn't feel the pain of the swats. I felt like she liked me. In my mind, I liked her. So she was another girlfriend I had in the third grade. So what's that, 7, 8 years old? So that was my way of dealing with it. That was my way of coping with it. That was my way of making myself feel good about what I was doing, even though it was wrong. So all those 3 incidents happened from the 1st grade up until the 6th grade. And had we not lost our house, my parents got divorced in like 78, 77. Had we not lost our house and had to move when I was in the 6th grade, I would continue having sex with my babysitter without a doubt. At that point, I was well versed. I had lost my virginity at 8 years old. Losing virginity to me was nothing. I was proud of that. It was gone. That was a badge of honor for me. It was something that's supposed to happen. But had we not lost our house, and when we did lose our house, the first thing that went through my mind, it wasn't like, oh, we lost our house. I was like, oh, I'm not going to see my girlfriend anymore. We walked from our house that we lost to the lady that I was sent to live with that I didn't know. And then my mother and brother went to move to a hotel. I didn't see my mother and my brother, my sister, probably a year or so. I had much rather been in a foster care or orphanage. We were on our way. My sister and I was on our way to foster care. But it started the 1st grade and it didn't stop until the 6th. Had we not lost our house, I would have still been having sex with my babysitter, and probably kept kissing my cousins. I don't know, because that was normal to me. Not kissing them became abnormal. Not having sex with my babysitter became abnormal. So, from 1st grade to 6th grade.
So let me ask this, Leon. So after 6th grade, you're already introduced to sex. You've been molested. What type of implications and impacts do you think that those experiences had going, say, forward from high school onto your early adulthood?
So the impact it had was quite a few things. There was a time where I became real introverted and shy for like the 6th or 7th, the 7th and 8th grade, because wasn't around my babysitter anymore. Didn't see my cousins anymore for years. So I wasn't practicing the sexual misconduct. So I had started going into a shell. So that molestation and those rapes started coming back and make me feel like less of a person, right? And so later on in life, let's talk about how I was upset with women. So, I was raped, I was molested, and I was fondled. I had the blueprint to be a rapist. I had the blueprint to fondle little boys. I had the blueprint to molest little girls, but I didn't choose to do that because it was done to me. And a lot of people use the excuse, what happened to me as a child, that's why I did it to this child. They full of crap. And that's one thing that makes me extremely upset. But I forgot how to cry. That was taken out of me. I didn't know how to hold hands. I didn't know how to hug. I didn't know how to cuddle. I didn't want to do it. And I'm talking about my 30s and 40s. What happened to me from 5 years old to 11 and 12 stayed with me until my 30s or 40s because I never processed it. I never got help. So my thing was, okay, let me go back to what my cousins did to me. Let me go back to what they taught me. Let me go back to what my babysitter taught me. And all I knew was the physical attraction I had to women. It wasn't like holding her hand to make her feel good. I mean, it's to make me feel good. It's about me. So I became very, very self-centered. And I didn't realize this until a few years ago that I was selfish. I could plan a nice weekend for a woman. I can come up with this nice itinerary. We get a pedicure, manicure. We go to a movie. We go to a play. We have some nice drinks. We go to a hookah bar, whatever the case may be. But that was all just to lure her in, because after talking to certain women, you get to realize what they want, what they don't want, what they like. But in my case, I got to figuring out what they really needed in their life. And a lot of times it was attention, but I'm not going to be hugging you and sitting up with you and cuddling with you all day. I'm going to make you happy because you haven't been to the movies in 2 years. You just told me that. You haven't seen a play in 5 years. You just told me that. You haven't had a door open for you in 6 months. You've been beat. You've been cursed out. So I did the opposite of what they weren't getting. I did, the nice things. And I lured them in just to have sex. It wasn't to keep them around. I don't want a relationship with nobody. I didn't have a relationship. I lost a relationship with my mother in the 6th grade. So how did I didn't know how to have a relationship with a woman. I didn't care to do that with a woman. So my thing was, it affected me. I didn't know how to cuddle. I didn't know how to communicate. You know, I didn't know how to listen. I didn't know how to behave. I didn't know how to respect women. My thing was total disrespect because of what happened to me as a child. I'm getting all of y'all back. I'm not going to rape anybody. I'm not going to fondle anybody. I'm not going to molest anybody, but I'm going to break your heart because my heart was broken. I moved forward in life not thinking about, you know, what my uncle did to me, my private area, it hurt, or what my babysitter or my cousins did. I didn't think about that. I blocked it out. That was my foundation of how to treat women, was verbal abuse and just, you know, mental abuse, all those types of things. And so that was my way of, because I realized what they had done to me, what my babysitter did to me and what my cousin did to me, I realized that it controlled me in a way. So I said, you know what? If I do this to these women, I can control them too. So yeah, I was doing a Facebook Live a while ago and a lady called me a predator back then. She said, you were, I said I was. I didn't think about that. Nobody had ever told me that, but I was. So I'm going to prey on the weak women. I'm going to prey on the women that have low self-esteem. I have no respect for me. A dog on show don't have no respect for you. Why should I? Every woman that I saw was my cousins, or every woman I saw was my babysitters. I gave them a face. Regardless how pretty they were, I gave them a face in my mind, and I got my cousins back through other women. Other women suffer because of them. And so that's why you hear these guys out here. I never beat women. I don't believe in hitting women. But it was the things that I was doing was worse. You know, the mental torture and the verbal abuse, you know. I hear these guys out here talking about, you know, I'm killing these women because my babysitters did this, whatever. You don't have to kill anybody. But I was killing women. I was killing their soul. I was killing their spirit by beating them down verbally, by not returning their phone calls, by ignoring them. I got real good at ignoring women and not returning phone calls. You know, I got real good at not responding to their questions. I got real good at using reverse psychology. So carrying it through my life, Dom and Dex, it really damaged me as a young man, and it damaged me as a man. And then guess what? I joined the Navy, the world's biggest party, the world's longest party, and I get exposed to all these women overseas, all these exotic women all over the world. So do you really think I respect them? No. All I had to have in some countries was a bag of rice, a bag of oranges, and maybe $20. If I'm paying $20 for a woman overseas, it's 2-3 days, not 2-3 hours. So it really hurt me as far as I didn't have the respect I should have had for women. I didn't value women at all. I didn't. And even though I've dated some great women, great personalities, great morals, and to answer your question again, it screwed up all of my relationships because I forgot the foundation that my parents gave me. But I remembered the foundation that my babysitter, my cousins, and my uncle gave me.
Did you ever have a chance? I know you said I think you said both of your cousins
Yes.
passed away, correct?
One passed away. She was
okay.
an alcoholic. Another one was murdered by her boyfriend. They were petite women, you know. But yeah, the alcohol killed one and boyfriend killed the other. They beat her with a hammer.
Did you ever have a chance to talk to them about, you know?
No, they would come over. It was like a hit and miss thing, but like I say, Dom and Dex, when they did what they did to me in first grade, I was shocked, crying, hurting, mouth bleeding, mouth hurting. All I wanted to do was go to the store and get some candy, but they took that away from me. But then I had, let's call them nightmares. You know, you can call them dreams, daydreams. A lot of daydreams about what they did, because don't get me wrong, the more I started thinking about it, the more I started liking what they had done to me. And here I am learning how to kiss from my cousins, incest. So again, I didn't talk to them about it. I kind of blocked it out, but I didn't want it to stop. It did stop after I started processing it. I liked how it felt. Because you got to remember, they put sucker bites, we call them sucker bites, all over my face, everywhere. And after a while, I get to school, I get home, it starts feeling good. It went from like pain, my mouth bleeding, then biting me, to touching it is like a soothing type of thing. So I never talked to him about it. I didn't see him that often. Throughout the years, we see each other, you know, but I believe they were having sex too at a young age. At teens, I'm sure they were. Because what they did to me, either somebody did to them, they saw it in the movie, or, you know, they wanted to do it to me, and they liked the way it felt to them.
Let me ask you this, Leon, because I want to get into your time now as an adult. You know, you discussed now you're in the military, the Navy. You know, us having been in the military, you know, we kind of know what it's like to be abroad. You know, kind of the nightlife apart from being, you know, in your unit. So, as far as relationships are concerned, did you ever get married, or what did relationships look like now as you're starting to mature
So
into your
relationships
adulthood?
to me look like a thing of beauty. It doesn't have to be anything physical. It could be strictly platonic, which I love, and I think that the most beautiful relationship starts from a platonic aspect. But relationship to me, it's more like I know how to respect myself. It's not about knowing how to respect yourself. It's about wanting to, and just the mere fact of respecting yourself. You're not gonna do to people what you wouldn't do to yourself. I'm not gonna abuse myself sexually, so I wouldn't abuse them sexually, like just taking it and all that type of stuff, which I never did. But to me now, relationship looks like it's a lot of healing for me, because I know that the type of person I was, that I'm not that person anymore. And I look back at myself now like, man, how did you do that? How did you cheat? How did you cheat on her? How did you curse her out? How did you call those names? How did you watch her sit there and cry and smile? I see all these things now, process all these things. After I've gone through therapy, it's like I was just a nasty, evil, dirty, downright dog. And that was like a badge of honor for me. One of the worst things, I've done a lot of bad things in my life, I tell you. But all the relationships that I've been in, state asked me, I was in the wrong. I was asked a question in one of my interviews, Leon, how do you know when you have the right one? I've always had the right one. I was always the wrong one. Always. I met some beautiful women. I'm talking about the inside. I met some beautiful women, and I still meet beautiful women now. But I appreciate the beauty from the inside more than the outside. I was infatuated by looks. I was infatuated by lips because my babysitter had big red lips. I was infatuated by breasts and buttocks. I was infatuated by all of that. I was infatuated by tan skin, brown skin, because my babysitter, that's what she had. That's what my cousins had, that brown, golden skin. It's not a racist thing. It's not like I was color struck, but that's what I was seeing. So my relationship now, I look at it as a thing of beauty. I like to get to know a lady. I like to communicate. And through my therapy, I learned, and I always talk about this, I learned about the components of a relationship. I went through therapy at 50 years old. I had no idea. I had no clue what the components of a relationship were. She asked me, Leon, do you know the components of a relationship? And I got upset with her and I walked out because I didn't know. I was embarrassed. She's like, you should know this at 50 years old. I'm like, I don't know. I'm up in there crying, crying, letting it out. But some of the components are, if you have kids and I have kids, will I allow you to discipline my kids? Will you allow me to discipline your kids? Right? And here's some key things. Had these women asked me about this, it would have made me reflect. It would have made me think. It would have made me think about myself. Leon, what was your father like? Not one woman. And I'm not proud of this, Dex and Dom. I'm not proud of this, but I've been with thousands of women, right? Horrible numbers, horrible. But not one has ever asked me what my father was like. Not one has ever asked me what my mother was like. That's a component of a relationship, because had they asked me that, they would have found out, or made me do some research, which I wound up doing later on in life, that my father had a very extreme personality. Either he worked long, he drank hard, or he watched porn, whatever. My mother had a very addictive personality. She was addicted to cigarettes, and she became later on in life addicted to crack. All right. So my personality was, I was addicted to porn. I was addicted to lying. I was addicted to deceiving. Right. And I would deceive and lie and cheat for long periods of time. That's my father's extreme personality. So I had it bad, but I could have had it better. Any one of these women say at one time, Leon, what was your dad like? I'm not going to hide it from him. Well, my father was rough. He drank a lot. He was a socialite. People liked him. My mother smoked crack. She was very addictive. She was very stubborn. She would hold things in. She never cried. And that may have set me on a different path to have a fruitful, healthy relationship. Instead, I went into my engagement to get married being immoral, very, very dysfunctional at 29 years old, man. I'm in the Navy. At the time, I had like 12, 13 years in, being very dysfunctional, being very deceiving, being very evil. What man, what man cheats on his fiance? That is just, I was sick, bro. I was sick. And then I wound up talking to you guys about the relationship. I wound up having 2 women pregnant at the same time. That is just the worst thing you could do to your girlfriend or your husband or boyfriend or whatever is give them a disease or get somebody else pregnant while you're in a relationship. I'm not talking about beating or killing. That's bad too. But the other thing, the worst thing you do is give your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, whoever, a disease or get somebody pregnant. And I got somebody else pregnant.
I got one more quick question, and then I'm gonna let Dom ask this question. So, how did this play out in front of your children with their mother?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And this is sad, bro. It's hard, but I'm gonna tell you guys. When I cheated on my fiance, she got pregnant, and the lady that I cheated with got pregnant. I didn't know, honestly. That doesn't make it any better. I got married. My wife got pregnant. And so I had the 2 women pregnant at the same time. My wife and I had the baby at 4.5, 5 months, and she was stillborn, so she passed away. 4 months later, the lady that I cheated with had my daughter. So I would have had 2 kids 4 months apart. She had my daughter. I didn't tell my wife that I had another woman pregnant. She sent a letter to my wife's house. We were living in Cleveland. I was at work. I was working 40 minutes from where my wife lived at, where we lived at. She came to my job for the first time, and I knew, how you get that intuition. And she gave me the letter, and I read it, and it said, and I will never forget this for the rest of my life. I have a baby by your husband. He needs to see his daughter. You are in his way. I'm reading it. I look at my wife, and she's crying. I'm crying. First thing in my mind was like, it ain't my baby. I didn't even know for sure, but I knew I was sleeping with her often. First thing out of my mouth was like, it's not my baby. I denied it. Not how men do, how we do what I did. I denied it. I got out the car and I started running. I was recruiting. I go back in there. So I made all these promises because I was scared that I would never, she had the baby. I'd never see the baby. Nah, it ain't my baby, blah, blah, blah. Well, you got to go to court. And I went to court, make a long story short, we got the DNA test and came back later like Maury Povich. You are the father. That's real. It might be like, a weird show, whatever, but that's what I got in the mail. And so I told my wife at the time, and she didn't ask me to do this. I did it because I was trying to keep my marriage together. I won't see my daughter, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't see my daughter. It hurt my daughter, it hurt me, it hurt our relationship. She didn't know, but I wound up telling her about 2 years ago that I neglected you for probably 6 years. I didn't see you. I didn't come see you. I didn't want to see you. And it had nothing to do with you, but it had everything to do with your mother because I felt like she trapped me. Trapped me or not, I was still having sex with her. I trapped myself. Now, it was years I was angry because I'm believing like, I'm being selfish. Now, you trapped me, blah, blah, blah. Nah, dude, you engaged. You ain't supposed to be sleeping with nobody else but your fiance. That's the bottom line. So I finally told my daughter, we met, me, my daughter, and her mother met about 2 years ago. Me and her mother, cool. She's like, hey, let's go out to dinner. So we went out to dinner and we talked. My daughter is like my mother. I know this, but her mother don't understand that. My daughter is a very, very strong-willed young lady. So I said, I can tell her anything. I told her, I said, look, I was engaged when I slept with your mother. I cheated on my fiance, and that's how you got here. And she's like, okay. So she's more understanding. My sons, I have 2 sons that are 23 and 19. They met their sister years ago, and I told them, yeah, I cheated. And they kind of like took it in. They didn't say, well, that, not that type of thing, but they know they get along great. They love their sister, and they have a great relationship. So I told them to it. I wasn't trying to ease into it. I couldn't ease into it because I waited too long to tell them anyway. So it's like, hey, here's the facts. This was up. I'm still your dad. I love you. I screwed up. I don't feel any different about you. You're here. Let's do this, So, yeah, my kids. But what I realize now is that my kids have my DNA. They have the ability to lie, to cheat, to deceive, to steal. They have the ability to have an abundance of women. My daughter may have the ability to have an abundance of men. You know, they do things that teens do. They do things that 20-year-old kids do. Now they lie, whatever, maybe smoke, drink. But I know how to help them. I know how to combat those urges. I get it. I understand that because they are me. They are the mother too, but I know that part of me, that gene is very, very dominant. Because what was passed me down to my father, from my mother or father, that extreme personality or that addictive personality is very dominant in my bloodline. So I can help them get through it, you know. But yeah, we talk about it. They know.
Can you also share how else therapy has helped you and how long you went through therapy? Are you still going through therapy? I know you said that it helped you understand the components of relationships and so forth. Can you go more into how it had helped you
Yeah, so it helped
this
me because
far?
it made me reflect on who I was. It made me reflect on who my parents were. It made me take a look at myself and say, you know what, you were wrong. I had to admit to it, Dom and Dex. I had to admit to it. I went through therapy for 7 months, about 6 or 7 months. I didn't want to go through it. I was fighting it. It was a part of my PTSD, which my PTSD had become thoughts of my childhood and what happened to me in the military. But it helped me understand me more. It helped me tell myself that I was wrong and what I was doing was unethical and unhealthy. Because if I'm a leader in the Navy, I can't be leading this one way and then going back and talking to my sailors another way. So it taught me to open. It taught me to open up. It taught me to be confident about it. It taught me to let it out. It taught me to release. It was therapeutic for me to go in and tell the truth. It taught me how that, you know, telling the truth can be very easy to do. You know, because when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember a lie. When you tell a lie, you have to remember that lie, and it changes. And you lose credibility. You lose people. You lose friends. So it taught me how to function the way that I'm supposed to function. It taught me how to fall back on my childhood morals, which I did have. It taught me how to be a better person. It taught me to understand people. It taught me not to judge people, which I was doing that too. Who am I to judge people? I'm just as jacked up as the next person, you know? So it taught me to listen and sit back and go over everything and process it and go back to my childhood and wonder why I was acting the way I was acting, why I was verbally abusive, why I was a cheater. I was chasing a high. I was chasing a sex high. And I tell people drugs are a lot more powerful than sex because you can get drugs and get high and feel good. But then there's times where if you don't have money to get drugs, you have sex to get the drugs. But it taught me that I had a lot of major addictions. I had a lot of major demons that I was just siding with. You know, I was like accepting because doing bad made me feel good. Doing bad was fun. Doing bad was attractive to me. Being healthy, being moral, being ethical was too boring to me. I like living life on the edge. And I had to admit all of that stuff because I could do something bad, but I was so good, I'm not bragging, I was so good in the Navy, and I think I was such a solid leader that I could do something wrong and turn around and do something right, and everything will go away. That's how we were in the military when I came in. You know, you do something right or you do something bad, you got to turn around and fix it by doing one thing right or two things right. That was my mindset, even in relationships. And then women went for it, and we made it better, so I thought. But they never forget, you know. But yeah. So therapy was a session that I needed. I wish I had gone through it maybe years ago, but wasn't mature enough to understand and process it. I wasn't mature enough to accept it. Had I went through therapy at 30 years old, I'd have got upset or probably got kicked out or probably cursed her out or something. I wasn't ready for it, you know. The fact remains that I'm a slow learner. I mature very slow, but I know that. And so then now that I know that I'm gonna get there, and I knew that I've always was a slow learner and I've always matured slow. But now that I know if I gotta wait for 2 months or 3 months to get to this point, I can wait without doing anything in between to get to that point. You know, some people do something and they repent. They go to church and they repent. Repent means to totally turn away from it. But to make it think they make it like it's okay. It's not okay to just use repenting as an excuse, you know, to clean up your egregious ways or acts. So I believe in repenting, but I don't have to do that because I, you know, fix it before I had to go ask for help or mercy.
Let me ask this, Leon. Now that you know you're an adult man in your 50s and you have kids, you have grandkids, have you ever been able to reconcile the fact that you were actually molested? I know that as a child, you said, "Hey, I enjoyed the sex with my babysitter. I enjoyed the kissing with the cousins." But have you ever just really sat back and say, "You know what? I was actually molested."
No, Dom and Dex, no, I never told myself that because I didn't want to go back to the times where I wanted to kill my uncle. Because I knew as soon as I accepted that, I was going right back to that mindset. Although, albeit he was gone, dead and gone, that thought process would have come right back. And I wasn't ready to handle that, bro. I handle it now. You know, I talk about it, I speak about it freely because there are little boys that are being molested and raped, and little girls too. But I wasn't ready to say it, and I wasn't ready to accept that, bro, because it was like, to me, that would have put a dent in my manhood, you know? And because I've led thousands, hundreds of thousands of sailors that were molested, and then when I talk to them about it, they become sheepish, you know, they go into a shell. They don't want to admit to it. They come in my office happy and, you know, cheerful, and then we sit down and talk and they open up, totally different person. And I didn't want to be that person within myself by admitting to that, the fact that I was molested. I was like, nah. And I sat on, as a senior leader, I sat on panels about sexual abuse, child molestation, domestic violence. And on those panels, there were psychiatrists, there were psychologists, there were social workers. And here I am sitting there hearing, listening to these stories and cringing. But they didn't know what I was thinking because I couldn't show it. I'm this big, strong, confident man, and I'm gonna break down crime because I'm hearing about these little kids getting molested, or this man being beat by his wife, or this woman being beat by her husband. I'm sitting on these panels and I'm cringing because I'm hearing these stories and I'm seeing these pictures, and it's reminding me of what I went through as a child. It was hard. So I blocked it out that I wasn't molested. Oh, it didn't happen to me. It didn't happen to me, but it kept coming back. It kept coming back. It kept coming back. And then when I went to therapy, she's like, you just need to admit to it. And I'm in there crying and not want to admit to it, but I finally admitted to it, you know? So I had to say, you know what? That was my way of forgiving even my babysitter. Even though for years, I said she put me on the right path on a sexual course. I was a sexual deviant, you know, for many years. And I thanked her for it because she opened me up to sex at such a young age. I was experienced throughout my life. So I didn't have to meet a girl and like not know what to do. I met a girl, she didn't know what to do. So now I'm in control. But I thanked her for years for that. But until I realized I was molested, bro. I just didn't admit to it until I went through therapy.
Three of the four people that committed these acts against you are deceased. I don't know if you know the status of the babysitter, but have you been able to forgive?
Yeah. So what happened? The babysitter, I think she's still alive. What happened to me is 2016. I went to the barbershop, and the barber, my barber, George Moore Jr., great man, I didn't know him at the time. He was just doing my beard. And so he was upset that, I don't say he was upset. He was just venting. You know how you get that barbershop talk. And he was like, man, I need somebody to help me talk to these kids, get them off the street. We're starting this new program called Legacy Reentry. We're trying to, blah, 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 blah. We're trying to get people jobs and get them clothes and get them fed. And so the barbershop owner, which was a friend of mine, he said, well, why don't you talk to the dude that's sitting in your chair? And he stopped cutting me. He's like, eh. And he said, yo, man, who are you? And I told him, I said, yeah, I'm Leon. I just retired, 32 years. He said, hey, man, why don't you come to my church tonight? I want to talk to you. I said, well, I haven't been to church in a long time, but I believe in God. I just keep it simple, right? So I went to his church. Long story short, I went to his church. We talked. He recorded me. And he said, man, I just got to the 3rd grade. I was talking to him about being molested and all that stuff, dysfunctional. And he said, he said 7 words to me, Dex and Dom. He said, why don't you just write a book? So this is not about the book, but I'm telling you the story. I said, I don't know how to do that. So I went home. I came here right here in this apartment. I just started typing. But what happened was, as I started typing, I started visualizing my story. And I started taking myself through my story. I started rehearsing my story. It started coming back. I started getting emotional. I started feeling everything. And I'm like, man, I was typing Dex and I was upset while I was typing because I could see the whole scene over again. And I said, the only way I'm gonna have to get through this is to forgive them. I have to keep reading. So you know how you type a chapter, it's not done, and you got to go over it, over and over and over it. I kept reading, and I'm like, man, it made me think about their death then. It made me think about my cousin's death. It made me think about my uncle being murdered. It made me think about my babysitter possibly being abused because she abused me. So I said, you know what? I started feeling relieved as I typed. The more I typed, the better I felt. The better I felt, I kept telling myself positive things. And then it came to me, dude, you just gotta forgive them and forgive yourself. I never knew how to forgive anybody. I wanted to always hurt people. I wanted to hurt people when I was playing football. I didn't like playing football. I like hurting people. Then I love, playing football because it was a part of the sport that I love, but hurting people. Then I learned how to box, and I liked punching people. So forgiving them reduced my anguish, reduced my anger. I had very bad anger issues. And I found a new person in me, like, a person wants to be happy. I want to be more social. I am social, but I don't want to be angry no more. I don't want to hurt anybody. I got tired of living that life. I got tired of that being in my heart. I got tired of that being in my spirit and my soul. So writing about it helped me learn how to forgive them and say, I forgive you. I went years without crying. I went years without apologizing to people. People that I hurt, not people that hurt me. I went years without saying, well, hey, let's talk about that. So I became a really cold, callous type of person, cynical, all of that, disrespectful. And so I just it was weighing on my mind, bro. It was weighing on me so tough that not only was I eating bad, but I had a heart attack in 2013 because of all the negativity. Just weighed me down. And thank God I got God on my side. He touched me. I didn't die from the heart attack, but it was like, look, you need to start thinking better, feeling better, eating better, and having, positive thoughts. So it was a way of just forgiving them, forgiving myself.
Hey, Leon, what would you, and I'm just going to be asking some questions as some people are leaving. What advice, what tips, what message would you give parents?
The message that I would give parents that are listening right now is to a couple of things. Don't force your kid to talk to you. We have this thing where we say, yeah, I'm not your friend. I'm not your role model. You have to be inviting to your kids so they want to talk to you, right? I carried this stuff on through my life, not because my parents weren't approachable, but I was afraid of just letting it out and talking about it and communicating. We didn't have dinner at the table. We didn't talk about things. So we didn't sit down and talk. We didn't have dinner like that. But have dinner with your kids. Teach them how to talk. Teach them how to communicate. Don't talk at them. Listen. The biggest thing you do is listen to your kids. It's like being a leader in the military. Let your kids vent to you. Don't push them in the corner. Your kid may be gay or transgender or want to transition. You have to understand that that's their mind. The kids are kids. This generation is different, but they're very intelligent. They listen. They want you to be real and honest with them. Don't yell. I was a big yeller. I yelled a lot. And when you yell at your kids, we've been yelling at kids for years. I was yelled at, and I just paid it forward. It's wrong. We can't do it because if you do that, your kid's gonna find somebody. Trust me, they're gonna find somebody to communicate with. But I would tell them, listen to your kids. Appreciate them. Let them know that you appreciate them. You can't ride your kids' butt like your parents rode you. Let them be free thinkers. Let them be open-minded. If your kid is 6'2", 230, and you think he should be a linebacker, but he wants to dance, let him dance. If your kid is 7'1", and you think that he should be a center or playing basketball, and he wants to macrame, paint or something, let him macrame, let him paint, let him be an artist. Don't force your kids in a direction they don't want to go in. You can't live your life vicariously through them. That's a big problem we all have. I did the same thing with my sons. I want them to play football, but my son don't want to do that. He wants to be an actor or whatever. But listen to your kids. Be very, very approachable. You can't. So I would force a lot of my ways on my kids because I'm structured, military. But I can't expect them to clean like I clean. You have to allow your kids to grow into who they're going to be. Don't force it on them because you can't stand to see the bed not made up, or you can't stand to see crumbs on the counter. You can't stand to see hair in the sink or toothpaste in the sink. I was the same way, and I push my kids away and make them curl up in the ball, it'll crush their little spirit. So being a great listener before we fly off the handle and yell and scream, be approachable. If your kids want to do what they want to do, allow them, but give them a little guidance. course correction. Don't always stay in their business. You know, the punishment is not going to do it all the time. They'll just become more angry and more distant, you know. So listening and being very approachable is very, very important. And don't yell. I know kids now that when you yell, they just curl up.
Yeah, Leah, I think this will be the last question that I have. As it relates to your healing process, do you see yourself as healed, or are you still a
No,
work
I'm
in
both.
progress?
I'm healed from all the negative things, but I'm still a work in process because I know I can get better. You know, I haven't found out everything, but I'm looking for everything. And as I look for everything and I'm seeking it, it's going to come to me. But I'm healed. Now, and I say that gracefully, and I feel good about it, but I want more healing. You know, I want more. I want to see more. I want to hear more. I want to learn more. I have to be open to, you know, one day possibly being, you know, engaged and married, and listen to what my fiance, what she may bring to me. So I'm not done, you know, because she's gonna bring a new perspective. She's gonna bring new ideas. And like I said, going through my therapy, I had to learn how to listen. I like to listen now, you know, because I want more. I want to grow more. I want to be 10 feet tall, you know, mentally and my soul. I want my spirit and my aura to be huge. I wanted to go, you know, around the world. So my thing is, I'm healed, but I'm still growing because my ideas may be good for her. Her ideas may be good for me. And together, you know, we will share a lot of things, a lot of likes, a lot of dislikes. Again, those are components of a relationship. So no, I'm still moving forward. I'm still learning. I still want more. I still crave because I know I have it's not like a long way to go, but I'm at where God wants me to be. But I know that I'm not at the pinnacle. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. And then it goes like this. And when you get here, that could be heaven for me. Whether I'm here or not, I'm still going. I want to get to that point where I can always look down, look back, and bring somebody else along and be a great listener and understand their problems. You know, all the problems in the world are the same. The only thing that changes the people.
And somebody asked the question, are you
No,
currently
I'm not
married?
currently married now. I've been divorced since 2007. I've been single for 4.5, 5 years now. And that's a great question. I needed to be single, but what I found out, Dex and Dom, in 2016 when I started going through therapy, was that I was in relationships straight for 32 years. From 1984, my first Navy girlfriend, to 2014, 15, when I broke up with my last girlfriend. Great woman. But I was carrying the baggage I had from my first girlfriend from 1984 up until my last girlfriend, 2000, and we broke up in 2014. But I was carrying all that negativity, all that baggage from one relationship to the next. I never gave myself time to heal. I never gave myself time to understand another woman. I never gave myself time to be a good listener. I didn't. I would take what I had from her to her. And then when I take from her to the next one, I was taking 2, 3 women into the next relationship. So I was always seeing these old women. I was always looking at these not old women, but old ways that I had that I thought was the women, but it was me making them that way. They were reacting to my reaction. You know what I'm saying? And it was 90% of the time I was wrong. And I'd be like, why you know, but they were reacting to my reaction, which is, being a listener now, I don't mind being led or taught by a woman. There was a time where I wasn't gonna let that happen. No, but now I'm good with it, So it's not that I'm mad because I'm getting older now. I'm about to die, I gotta get with somebody. I gotta hurry up. No, this is real, man. This is the real me wanting to be in a nice, healthy, fruitful relationship. I have a great relationship with God, and so I'm on the right path. I know that. I don't worry about anything anymore. I don't.
I feel like your comment actually addressed another question that came up. So we're getting ready to bring this to a close, but before we do so, we know that you're an author. You're also a speaker. So can you tell the listening audience about your book, how they can get in contact with you if they
Okay, my book is called Broken. It came out April 18. It's in Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and everywhere they distribute books. Google, what they call it, Google Reads, Goodread. I'm on Instagram as Leon R. Walker. I'm on Facebook as Leon R. Walker. I'm working on my YouTube channel. I just wrote another ebook, and I'll tell you about that. But another ebook, because I was addicted to porn as a child, and I wrote an ebook, a training ebook about that. So I'll release that next month on the 15th. I'm writing 2 biographies about two friends of mine that had a very dysfunctional childhood as well. So yeah, you can reach me on Instagram. I'm always posting stuff daily, 2, maybe 3 times a day, sometimes 4 or 5 times a week. I'm always on Facebook. I speak, I travel. My website will be back up this week. It's called IInspire1.com. It's down now for maintenance, IInspire1.com. But yeah, I speak. I don't consider myself a motivational speaker. I consider myself a messenger, man, because I wake up with thoughts and ideas and I just give it out to people, you know. So I speak. I'm supposed to be going to Houston this month or maybe next month to speak at alternative school. I just did a domestic violence speech here on base in Great Lakes for domestic violence. I'm a big advocate of that. So I just left Cleveland. I spoke at the Juvenile Detention Center, 120 young men. I spoke there. I'm going back because there are other juvenile detention centers in Ohio that I want to get to. So yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Google. I'm on Google. You know, my little retirement ceremony's on there. So I'm all around, man. YouTube, I'm working on that too. But yeah, I Inspire One is my website. But I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's been very, very enlightening for me, you know, because you asked some great questions. When I talked to y'all a while ago about the interview, the questions where I was like, man, those are really thorough. So well thought out questions, brother. I appreciate that.
Appreciate you coming on. And before we let you go, is there anything else that you want to share with
yeah,
the
you
audience?
know, I tell people to think inside the box. We've been telling people to think outside the box for years. But my message to you is to think inside the box, study your DNA, your genetics, your parents. That's how I found out who I was, not only who I was, but who I'm capable of. With the addictive personality that my mother had, I switched my addictions from drinking alcohol to smoking cigarettes and cigars to being very successful as a leader, as a friend, as a father, as a teacher, as an author now. I want to be successful. I want to help people. So I put all the focus and energy into bringing people along. My father's extreme personality, now I work longer. I work smarter because he was able to do that. He gave that to me. I wasn't tapping into it the right way. I was tapping into it in a negative way with chasing women, lying, deceiving, drinking, smoking. So I switched my focus, right? Think inside the box. Who are you? What does your genetic give you? What does your DNA give you? I'm all about that life. I want to see what's happening. So that's what I do every single day now. I implement that, my mindset, my thought process into being a better, a stronger, a greater, a better listener. I have my own vision, my own blueprint. I tell people, don't rely on people to give you anything. Develop your own vision, develop your own blueprint, and give your gift away. You know, give it away to people.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Leon, man, again, thank you so much. You just don't know, a lot of people are chiming in. A lot of people are saying thank you. We want you to go back and look at the comments. And once again, we really appreciate you just taking time out and joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate y'all, man. Have a great evening. All right, brother. Bye.
All right, you take care, man. All right. So everyone, we'd like to thank you once again for joining us on another great episode, packed episode, heavy episode, and we really appreciate everyone supporting us. If you want to continue supporting us in other ways, we do have other options. We do have opportunities for people and business owners and so forth to sponsor, and we do have sponsorship options. You can go to our website to get more information. You can email us info@whenmenopenup.com. But if you want to have a chance to have your products and services and other things as well on our broadcast and on our podcast and so forth, feel free to contact us. Let's collaborate. Let's see how we can better help each other out. But once again, this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique.
I'm Dexter.
And we are out. Thank you again, and join us next week.